Welcome everyone. Council will now commence. So bring down the noise. Yeah. AGM, annual general meeting now commence. I want to thank you all for coming out, and all of you being here has meant that we're now at quorum, so all votes can go through. So please try to remain for all the voting until they're done. We're going to start now by going straight in with Andy, who is going to give the accounts. David is going to give the accounts. allow me, I'm tired and it's hot. Go on, Dave. Okay.
I want to just get down to the point. What's the quickest way down? Right, just bear with me a second, please, so I get the right page.
Yeah.
All right. Is that a bit of this?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, David is now commencing, so please quiet down.
Okay, so I think at the last general meeting I reported a little bit on the accounts. This is the period to July last year where we just had a finalisation meeting with the auditors this morning, and we've had the Finance Advisory Board this morning as well to approve the accounts. And they will then go to the official trustee board tomorrow, where hopefully they'll be signed, and then they'll be published on the Charity Commission website. So all of you that are interested, which I'm sure there may be the odd one or two, will be able to find them. But the most important figures on this page of our balance sheet is a figure at the bottom left of 57,772. So that is the total funds, the total reserves that the union has, compared with a deficit of 2,236 last year. And this is the first year for some considerable time that we've actually made a surplus. And we have now got a significant amount of reserves. So that is good, and credit to everybody. Credit to last year's team, but also to this year's team who, all being well, are continuing the good work, and the progress seems to be on track. One thing to say that is, although we've got £57,000 surplus in reserves, we can't spend it tomorrow because we are obliged under Charity Commission law to have a bank of reserves of something like 3 months of our ongoing costs. This is something we discussed at length with the auditors and with the university today. So that figure would probably be something nearer 100,000 that we need to keep as reserves. Probably in the next 2 years we'll be at that level, and if we get that level, then that's great, and then we can use that for maybe for specific projects that we've got, or if there are unforeseen circumstances and the university decides that it's going to cut the subvention that it gives us, then obviously it gives us a bit of a buffer. So, you know, I think all credit to everybody, and hopefully it'll continue. So I don't know if anybody's got any questions. No? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, David. And now moving on to the next item on the agenda, which will be intro to new sabbatical officers. So, Aline, would you like to come forward? Go on then.
Right, guys, so Oh, that's all right. So basically, I just wanted to get, as a current Union Affairs officer, get all the incoming sabbatical officers to just get them to introduce themselves and show their face to the general meeting and introduce themselves. So could I get all the officers elect to the front, please?
C3, I think.
You want the whole thing, full exec? Yeah, full exec.
Yeah, sorry, I did say that was the full exec. Sorry, I should have made it clearer. My bad. Sorry. So the full exec, so the non-sabbatical officers, so the BME officer, if they're here, disabled students officer, home-based students officer, the postgrad, mature, everyone. Come on, guys, come on, guys, come on, guys. Just say who you are, name and who you are, and what your role is.
Hello, my name is Faiz Ilyas and I'm the next year's home-based students officer.
I'm Nathan Windass and I'm your LGBT plus officer again.
Hi, my name's Severa and I'm the re-elected community and welfare officer.
Hi, my name is CG Akinlusi. I'm your sports officer elect.
Hello, hello. Hamza Ahmed Bad, Union Affairs officer.
Alim Bashir, your next year's academic affairs officer.
Hi, I'm Afrodita Darmadi. I'm your next activities officer.
Hi, I'm Anila Ahmed and I'm the disabled students officer.
I'm Tariq, the Black and Minority Ethnic Students Officer.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for that, Alim. Now we're moving on to the next section of the agenda, which is the referendums, starting with the NUS referendum. So, Alim, can we have you back at the front? Yes.
Okay. Right, guys, so as you may or may not be aware, our NUS referendum is due. It should have occurred this academic year, but due to complications and a few things that occurred, the referendum was delayed. As we were told last general meeting to bring it, sorry, that was the other one, getting confused with referendums, but basically, so it was due this year. We went to national conference, a few things occurred there, and when we came back from conference and we fed back to the rest of the sabbatical officers and the executive team, we conversated on the possibility of delaying the referendum, the NUS referendum, to not next semester, but the second semester of next year. So it'd be early, so it'd be around February. So we needed to come back to a general meeting to see if general meeting would approve of that. If they didn't approve of delaying the referendum, then the referendum would take place in October, in line with the by-elections of the NUS delegates and the other roles that I think they're the only roles that are available. But that would be what would occur. So main reason that we wanted to see, well, I proposed to the executives was to delay the referendum was so that we could get a feel of what NUS actually is about. So last year we had certain campaigns which NUS pushed. However, we weren't too content that important issues such as the student not suspects taught in line with the counter-terrorism bill and the prevent agenda, that was not pushed as much as we felt that it should have been on top of the agenda. And when the NUS staff, they said that it's not up to the staff to push certain campaigns, it's up to the president. And with a liberation officer elected as the new president, and someone who is very close to, especially the Bradford delegates, and you know, she's worked quite closely with Samaya, one of our full-time officers. We wanted to see how NUS actually worked. Is it the president's decision which campaigns to push and where to support, or is it actually the staff behind? In which case, I myself would feel that there's a problem with NUS, and we should, you know, have a good campaign against it. But what I wanted to do was see what it was like. 'Cause at the current climate of NUS, it is a bit uncertain in which direction they're going. So I just felt as though we should see what NUS is about this year to really get a good feel of what it's really about. Is it the staff pushing their agenda, or is it really the students that are pushing the students' movement's agenda? So I'm happy to answer any questions. So just to clarify, we'll be voting on whether to delay the referendum to next February, or if we voted against it, it would occur in October.
Sorry, just confirm, so it won't be at the same time as the next year's sabbatical elections?
No, it would be just before.
Cool.
Can I ask, so what you're saying is if we delayed, we'll be putting a report, the sabbatical team will be putting a report together on what the NUS has pushed forward up until that point, so that we have the knowledge to know what they've been doing in the meantime before we vote on it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a report, we can do a report. I mean, you can mandate us, the sabbatical team, to write a report for the next general meeting, and then give you an update. And then you'll be better informed on where to vote on, or to run a campaign even.
Yeah, cheers.
Any other questions?
Yeah, this referendum is 3 years overdate, not 1 year, constitutionally.
Yeah.
What is another 4 months going to do to make us see anything differently? Do you not think it would be better for us to go ahead with this long-awaited referendum and get it over with? And if we find that the NUS isn't doing what it should be doing, we can always hold another referendum to leave the NUS.
Yeah,
but the fact of the matter is, without unions like Bradford, we wouldn't be in the position that the NUS is in now, where they do have minority figures leading that union of students. And if we're going to be the kind of union that sits on the sideline and just waits for something to happen, rather than confirming we're going to be part of that union of students and actually make a stand and actually fight for minorities to be represented, should we not have it earlier and be supportive of the new leader, or are we just going to sit on our hands and wait?
I think it's important to note that, as we are elected, specifically the full-time officers, we do represent the students at Bradford First, and personally, I wouldn't want to run a referendum when there was a lot of emotions involved. We need to be making sound judgments, we need to have sound campaigns, and we need to make a balanced decision. And I wouldn't want that to occur at a time where emotions are running high. We've seen so many unions that have rallied for referendums. Some have voted in, some have voted out, and I just don't think it's the time is right to have a referendum. I think we need to wait and give the new elected team chance within the academic year, so September, October, November, to see what agenda they're pushing. Are they pushing for the students, or is it just for fame grabbing and headline grabbing? As this year, that's what has been some of my feelings towards NUS. That's just my view. We will have other people that will agree and disagree. So I'm happy to have any other question that you got.
Do you feel that the controversy surrounding the NUS right now is going to affect this? And if so, why not, whilst the spotlight is on the NUS, make this decision? Because clearly then more people are going to be engaged and more knowledgeable about the NUS and more likely to look up their facts before, and I'm probably guessing if we pushed it to February, what may happen is it'll die down, people will become more apathetic to the situation. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good point that you raise, but I just think that we need to be making sound decisions and we need to make a sound point. I do think there's a lot of controversy surrounding NUS at this moment in time, and you're going to have people on both sides of the argument, but I just feel as though that if we delayed it, the emotions would disappear and our students can make a more informed decision whether to run a campaign for or against NUS, or it's going to be, to like I wouldn't want certain things in the media to distract students, or to sway them in a particular way of voting. I would want them to make it based on NUS without the controversy.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to your point, Nick. There's a lot of misinformation and lies being spread right now about the new president-elect of NUS, and I think it would be unfair for us to join in that. The momentum that's happening across student unions in the UK right now. I feel that if we were to go forward with a referendum, then we would give all those lies and that misinformation a chance to carry across the students of Bradford. And I think that we don't want to be in a situation where people are believing those lies. And I think that's one of the most damaging things that's come out of NUS, is that once a Muslim woman gets elected as president, the defamation and the threats and the media interest that has come out of that. I think it's our responsibility as a union that supported her, that's very close to her, is to support is almost to tackle the media misinformation rather than maybe do something that might perpetuate it.
I noticed last time we talked about this referendum, there was a whole lot of confusion. If the referendum is delayed to February, when a lot of first-year students should be aware of it, will there be more engagement towards them?
So in our welcome talks, we'll be able to mention that our NUS referendum is due. We'll be able to say that our elections are due. We see pretty much every single fresher that comes in, because the full-time sabbatical team delivers a presentation about the union at the start of the year and gives them a little bit of an insight into each and everyone's role. So it would be probably Hamza's job to just make some awareness about the elections and the referendums that would be going on. So the first years would be better informed. Plus, by February time, I do think that the first years would have had enough chance or opportunity to get involved and to get involved with the student movement and get to know how with the NUS. As well as that, there will have been the NUS delegate elections in autumn. So I do think they will be better informed overall.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, guys, I mean, personally, I do feel that we do need to delay this. It will be showing support for a minority group. It will be showing support for somebody who has been, in quite a lot of people's eyes, targeted and had her name tarnished for something which is pretty much disgusting, in my opinion, and in a lot of students' opinion, especially in Bradford. I think that we need to have a sound argument for going in or being against NUS. We shouldn't run on emotions, and we should run on whether or not they are good for our movement as a student body in the union. So please do vote to delay this referendum so that we can really get an insight on what NUS is actually like. Thank you.
So now, as you all know, we're going to be voting on whether to postpone the referendum regarding the NUS. So those in favour of postponing the referendum, please raise your hands now.
Raise them as high as you can.
Raise them up high. Thank you very much. Those against postponing the referendum, please raise your hands. In silence, please. In silence, please. Thank you very much. And those abstaining from voting, please raise your hands now. Thank you very much. results are.
Have Sam's voted on this? Are they? Yeah, everyone's voted. There's 94 votes after being cast. We're supposed to have 95 including. Has anyone not voted? Because if you haven't voted, we need to have 100 votes on the piece of paper here. So has anyone not voted at all? Well, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know you can't vote. Yeah, I did vote. Yeah.
So if we count 102, because I think some people might have entered well. Yeah. If we count 102, so we'll have to recount the room quickly. I think Liam's doing that right now. There's 101.
That's fine.
Okay, so we're gonna have to do it again. We have to do it again.
Have to do it again. That's 100. That's 100. That's 100. Can I just ask everyone just to remain seated, please, because we need 100 students to be here, and they need to vote. If not, then we won't have quota, and we won't be able to get a decision that's binding. The only thing that we can do then is recommend. So that would delay things even further. So please. For those who didn't vote, they're going to have to either abstain, which pretty much means they're not voting. Otherwise, we're going to have to do a recount. Yeah. Right, guys, we're going to have to do a recount.
So everyone, can you please remain seated? We're just going to do a quick recount of the room to find out how many students we actually currently have. Thank you. Okay, so those in favour of having the referendum, please raise your hands now. Oh no, those in favour of postponing the referendum, please raise your hands now.
How's it come, guys?
Ahmed, is your hand up? Is your hand up?
He's got 47. 47, okay, got 31. Is
that right?
Yeah, so that's 78. So we could be okay here. You got 47, yeah, I got 78.
Yeah. Odds against?
Okay, is that final? Yeah. Okay, so raise your hands now. Thank you very much. Raise your hand if you're against postponing the referendum. Raise them up high.
Hi, guys. Hi. As in, raise your hands high.
Those abstaining from voting, please raise your hands now.
So all the people that haven't voted, please raise your hand.
If you're abstaining, please raise your hand. Raise them high. Okay, thank you.
Still not quorum. 98. Sorry, 99 including the chair. So we need one more.
You voted. Did you count me? Did you count me? Did you count me? Hamza, did you count himself?
Yeah, count. Yeah,
Did you count yourself? Did you count me? Yeah, add 2 on there. That's right. That's fine. Bloody hell, fine. Right.
Yeah. 78 for, 10 against, and 12 abstentions, which adds up to 100. So we can't afford anyone else to leave this meeting until the voting's done. Votes really do count.
So tell them it's been passed then.
Yeah. Yep. So it's passed. Yep. The referendum will be held in February. All right. Sorry. 12.
Now we'll be moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Women's and Campaigns Officer referendum. So now we'll be reading a document before we commence.
Okay, so a document was put up on the website earlier today to explain how we've gotten to this point, because it's been through a few general meetings, but through one meeting when there wasn't quorum and another meeting where the general meeting advised it to be looked at again. So we've brought it back to you today. So I'm just going to read out the statement. Last year's executive team recommended at the 2015 AGM that a vote should take place regarding the role of the Women's and Campaigns Officer. The vote being if the role should continue in its current form or be replaced by a new role within the sabbatical team. As the AGM was not a quorum, meaning there was not enough people in attendance, this vote did not take place. Therefore, it was carried on to the current executive team and was brought forward to the general meeting in February 2016. At the general meeting, students decided that before a vote on a possible referendum, that an alternative role be specified first. The Democracy Committee discussed this and put forward the alternative role of Equality and Campaigns Officer. This was discussed at Council in April 2016 and was voted on in favour of having a referendum. However, it was concluded this vote did not meet the requirement of a 2/3 majority. Therefore, the Elections Committee decided that this issue be voted on at this general meeting by you, the students. After discussion of the above with the Women's and Campaigns Officer, she put forward the idea of changing her role to the Women's and Liberation Officer instead of keeping the role the same. So today we're going to have a vote on whether or not to have a referendum, and the referendum in question will have 3 choices. The first choice would be to keep the role the way it is now. The second choice will be the Equality and Campaigns Officer, and if that were to happen, the women's role would be a part-time officer supported by the Equality and Campaigns Officer. And the third choice would be just to have a women's officer that would also take into account the liberation officers as well. So they're the 3 choices that you would have if we were to have a referendum in October. Now, in order to explain the 2 proposed roles a little bit clearly, Aleem and Smaya are going to talk about that, and then there'll be an opportunity for questions from the floor if you want anything clarified. At the end of that, what will happen is there will be a speech for having a referendum, and there'll be an opportunity for a speech against having a referendum, and then there will be a vote. However, before we go on to that, is everyone happy with how we've gotten here? Are there any questions about that? Okay, that's grand. So Aleem, if you want to pop up first. And
Hi guys. So basically, this is something which came through from the year before. So because my role, the Union Affairs Officer, is oversees the democracy, I had to make sure that it came back to GM, that it came to Democracy Committee, and it came back here today. So basically, with myself, I worked, obviously it came back to last GM, and when we spoke about it and we discussed it, there was a feeling within the students that there was no role being proposed, and there wasn't any direction of a referendum to be taken. So even if there was a referendum, there wasn't anything in place then. So what we did was that we took the initiative. We went back to Democracy Committee and we discussed about having Equality and Campaigns Officer, as was suggested by some of the students that were present then. So basically what this role would do, they would oversee the whole liberation and non-sabbatical officer side. They would do everything that was in concerns to anything to do with the equality issues on campus and the campaigning issues would come underneath that person. Essentially, this Equalities and Campaigns Officer would provide a lot of support for, if you did vote for it, the Women's Officer for the Women's Month, the Disabled Students Officer for the Disability Awareness Month, the LGBT Month, the BME Month, and all the other non-sabbatical officers or whatever they were doing throughout the year. So it would give someone the direction and support for the non-sabbatical officers, because the non-sabbatical officers, obviously they're the students, and they don't necessarily have that support with them. A lot of the concerns that have been over the past few years that the non-sabbatical officers don't have that much support. So this is what was my thinking when I was writing up the role, and then when we discussed it at Democracy Committee, these were some of the things that were brought up. And then obviously now we've brought it here today for you guys. So if you have any questions, what do you want?
Hey everyone. So the role that I've proposed is the Women's Officer, or as was stated in there, the Women's and Liberation Officer. After consultation with focus groups, discussions with staff from academic staff across the university, and also the Equality and Diversity Department as well as my experience of having done the role for 2 years, I'm putting forward this alternative for the referendum because I think that the Women's Officer needs to stay very explicitly a Women's Officer. And I know that there are ways that we can change the position to make it more viable. So the first main change that I've made in the new job description is to remove campaigns from the title. I think that perception of the Women's Officer holding control over all the campaigns that the union does was quite a popular misconception even, because obviously the role itself chairs the campaigns committee but doesn't control all the campaigns, and obviously isn't the only campaigning SAB. The nature of the student unions and all sabbatical officers is to campaign. So that's kind of like cleared up that misconception there, but also kept the campaigning role still within the Women's Officer. And I think from experience as well, having tried to balance campaigns along with the liberation aspect of the role, it's been incredibly difficult for me to maintain that. The second main change is to create a structure of support and transparency around the Women's Officer position. Now, this is one of the things that's missing around the Women's Officer in particular, and that is the support around it, whether that's the staff support or whether that's the support in terms of funding and things like that. So this committee around the Women's Officer will enable the position to remain anchored across all areas of the union, be it democracy, be it sports, be it societies, be it entertainments or academic councils. Every women from each area of the union will have a committee to sit on around the Women's Officer and be able to support her throughout the year in all the work that she does. This, I believe, will take away the isolation that the role often faces, and the difficulties around getting involved in different parts of the union. This year and last year, I spent a lot of my time behind the scenes with the local council, with the university, Equality and Diversity Department, with women's officers around the country, both part-time and full-time, and also with the National Women's Campaign as well, to come up with a more strategic role that can reflect the population of Bradford and the very specific needs that Bradford has here as well. So that's what I'm proposing. I have the experience. I have been women's officer for 2 years. I understand the difficulties around the role. I understand the negativity around the role as well, and I do understand that it needs to change, but this is the way that I see a transition happening from a full-time officer to whatever comes next. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Samaya and Aleem. So now the floor is open for any questions towards the job role descriptions that have been provided. That's what you're asking the questions regarding. So are there any questions regarding the job description roles? No?
I don't know if it technically comes under that. It's just a question to the current women's officer. If the whole role is changed, does that technically mean you can run again for that role? No. Okay, I was just wondering.
So under the Education Act, you're not allowed to run for a sabbatical officer more than 2 years in any union. So the law would stop me from doing something like that, even if opportunity wouldn't.
Yeah, so the guy who had the brains to stop after one, basically, we know the Equality and Diversity Department's shrunk in size over the last few years to the point I believe we have like one individual member in there. So what makes you think that, you know, either way of your proposals are, whether your proposal as Women and Liberations and your proposal as Equality and Campaigns Officer, what do you think that how do you think you can aid that that gap that's been created by the university for not having no one in the Equality and Diversity department?
That would be the responsibility of each of the roles, whichever one it is. I think that given that the Women's Officer has a place in the Equality and Diversity Committee, I think that with my new structure that I proposed, there's a lot that comes alongside it as well. So there's the job description, but then also making the union better structure to be able to support women. So whether that's quotas on union councillors or women becoming union councillors, whether that's opening up the influence that the Women's Officer has in decision-making bodies. Currently, just being part of the Equality and Diversity Committee doesn't give you the power to make decisions about the committee or about the department itself. So I think that going forward, it's whichever role it is, it needs to be about opening up the access and the influence that the Women's Officer position has.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Equality and Campaigns Officer would help in that. Although, you know, it is good to have, we do have a role on the Equality and Diversity Committee. By having an Equality and Campaigns Officer, I would see that that person would be able to take the views of each and every different area in a neutral manner, if that's the best way of putting it, and be able to channel that through to the university. And by having an Equality and Campaigns Officer, I would assume that they would have the ability to campaign to push the university to employ more people on that, more people in that department, and do campaigns that could support that, and they could push the non-sabbatical teams to support and put pressure and lobby the university into doing things like that. But I think, I mean, does that answer your question, or? Yeah, okay.
I just wanted to clarify something about the Equality and Diversity Committee. Whilst I have a place on there, so do the part-time liberation officers as well. So regardless of what the role goes forward, we would have representation from across all the liberation groups anyway. And also the university's 10-year plan has within its structures, equality and diversity, a running theme across everything that it does. And that means that the performance and planning department has responsibility to make sure that each department of the university, each faculty, is meeting equality objectives. So that's partly the reason why equality and diversity has been reduced, but that doesn't mean that right now there aren't applications being put in for more staff members as well. So that's like I said, that would happen. The representation would still happen regardless of whether there was a women's officer and or a equality and campaigns officer. The representation is still there.
Just a simple question of linguistics, really. Why can't you have an equality and liberation officer? Why does there have to be a specification of women and women's affairs? Not to be sexist or anything, but why they need to emphasize one specific gender over the other with this particular role? Isn't, as Aleem said in his original argument, equality, isn't that more necessary to the needs of everybody as opposed to just saying it's a women's officer for women's roles only, if you understand the question? So just when it comes to language, what is more welcoming and what is more engaging with the needs of people? If you could just respond.
Yeah, I absolutely take your point. But what we've seen from from across unions, making particular liberation officers, equality and diversity officers, has meant a diluting of the work that gets done. But there's also a more added specific context to this as well. We are in Bradford. Bradford is not like other places in the UK. There are very real disadvantages of being a woman in this university and across Bradford, and that's why I believe it needs to remain. It needs to remain a women's officer until, at the very least, we can get we've managed to get the university to acknowledge that there are those disadvantages, but more work needs to be done. And I am fully open to to this being changed in the future at some point, but not now, because the work still needs to be done now.
Given that all other liberation groups are only given part-time roles, why do you think that women's officer necessitates a full-time role more than any of those?
I personally, I believe that all liberation officers should have full-time roles. I think it's just a question of right now there isn't the funding to be able to to necessarily have that. I think that we shouldn't just get rid of the role that we already have and then go back rather than working towards that goal, if you see what I mean. At the University of Manchester, for example, their union has been growing and growing to the point where the university, I think a couple of decades ago, tried to shut down the Students' Union because it wasn't relevant, to now being one of the biggest student unions in the country, where they have a full-time women's officer, a full-time equality and diversity officer, a full-time campaigns officer. So we see these examples across the UK, and we know that as a student union we can get there because we've come strides in the last 2 decades. There's no reason to suggest that we should go back on what we've done, go back on what we've achieved, but instead we should be moving forward and increasing the representation that we have of liberation students. And we do understand liberation is a very key area in Bradford.
I think it's important to note that although we've got differences, myself and Samar, what direction we want to go in, it's important to note that we are for having a referendum on the role as it currently stands. So that's just so that I don't want everyone to get sidelined by these specific issues. Because obviously she wants, Samaya being 2 years in her role, has seen that she's seen a women's and liberation officer and women's and campaigns officer. And although I see it as moving forward, we should have equality and campaigns officer, it is, Samaya also see it as changing and having a women's officer. So I think it's important to know that we're going to vote on whether or not to have a referendum. And these are, although they are important discussions, I think that's the important part. I hope that's okay.
How much will the referendum cost?
Yeah, I mean, so we should have in the new academic year NUS cloud set up. So in terms of the costing for the ballot and stuff, that will all be free. In terms of promotion, that will be up to individuals. I know, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Hasbin's here. I think it was there was a £25, was it, per campaign that they were given budget from the union. 20. Yeah, so it was given £25. So theoretically speaking, if that was a case and the elections committee decided that the referendum would have the same budget, it would cost £50.
3 options, yeah. 3 multiplied by 25.
Okay, so you both want a referendum then?
I want the role to change, but I don't agree that necessarily a referendum is the best way to go about it, because we're talking about nuances and the way the role works. I don't think a referendum is the best way to achieve that. I think that going back to the drawing table and actually having a discussion about the role itself is the best way to achieve that. So I respectfully slightly disagree with what Aleem said, but I do want the role to change.
So you don't want a referendum?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, I just wanted to ask, apart from making the women's role a part-time role, what actually is different to the role that we actually have now?
What do you mean different as in?
As in what is, because the whole point is that we want to try and to strive and make the role better. But apart from actually making the women's role part-time, what actual difference is there?
Yeah, so for example, in my opinion, if you had a part-time role, you would get the passion that you get if you look at the BME officer with the Black History Month, you look at the Disabled Students officer with the Disability Awareness Month, if you look at the LGBT officer with the LGBT Awareness Month, I just think that by having a non-sabbatical officer, somebody who's really passionate about that role, that was willing to take out a lot of time, and I do understand that there will be pros and cons, there will be certain things that will be taken out and certain things that will be pushed forward, but I think the Equality and Campaigns officer would be able to push everyone's agenda equally and fairly from the non-sabbatical roles, whether that's women, whether that's BME, whether that's LGBT, disabled, postgrad, mature, students through dependence or home-based students officer. It could push all of their agendas equally. I understand that some people may feel that will be diluted, but I just think that if we have an individual that focuses solely on women's issues, then we will have a better representation in that regard. And I don't think that there should be considering the amount that of our student population, where I think the vast majority are BME, we don't have a BME full-time officer. A lot of our students are home-based. We don't have a home-based full-time officer. You know, it was only introduced this year. You know, I was the one who proposed the motion, but I think that by having an equality and campaigns officer, it will equally give support to all the other non-sabbatical officers to carry their cause as well, because there are other issues that affect our students as well. But I think the women's officer, by having a non-sabbatical officer, will have someone that's more passionate, and there'll be more specific women's campaigns and stuff that gets done, if that makes sense.
I'm very passionate, thank you, Aleem. But the only difference is with Women's History Month is that 2 weeks are run over by elections. 1 week is varsity and 1 week is Easter. So, like, I understand when there is a bit of a difference in the way that's promoted across campus. So I do understand. But yeah, that was my point. I am very passionate.
Why do you want to remove campaigns for WO and what with Aleem's point, do you think it would be helpful to have communication between other liberation officers?
So there's two reasons why I think that campaigns shouldn't necessarily be part of the title of the role. That's because there's a very big perception that it is only the women's and campaigns officer that deals with campaigns. The second thing really is it's very, very difficult to balance two things like women's officer and campaigns officer. It's also very difficult, I think, to balance equality, the equality as a whole, and and campaigns as a whole. That's why I think that it should be removed from the role. It's a responsibility that's within every single sabbatical officer anyway. The only specific role that the women's officer has is to chair the campaigns committee, just to ensure that the space is there for campaigns, and it's an incredibly difficult thing to do alongside everything else as well. So that's why I favour it being removed.
Yeah, Aleem, just going off what you said about the BME History Month, LGBT Month, don't you feel you're just restricting the women's officer role to just a month? And don't you think that is much needed throughout the whole year?
Oh.
You know, I understand where that's coming from, but it's similar things that can be said with, for example, the BME officer. Are we not restricting the BME issues to 1 month in October at the start of the year? The fact of the matter is that our non-sabbatical officer will be working on various different things. So we had Bash, the previous, the current actually BME officer, who pushed Hasmin, for example, for the BME attainment gap, and was working on that. That wasn't just in the October in the month. It was in various other times further on. Sorry, is that gone?
Yeah, Aleem, come.
I just have a clarification.
Is that right? Just let him finish.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is that on?
Yes, on.
Yeah? Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so basically, I don't think it's restricting it to a month. I think there will be various stuff that will be going on. I mean, if I use an example, there's a lot of work around increasing women in sport. A lot of that was initiated from AU, for example. It's not up to one individual to push a certain agenda. I think that all students need to get together and need to push whichever agenda that they feel passionate about. But I understand that what you're saying about the 1 month, but I do think that it won't be restricted to that month because the individual will be elected at the start, at the end of the previous academic year. So they will have the summer to a plan. So September, October, November, they're not going to sit around because they have executive, they have council. Council, you know, you've seen how furious they get when we're not doing anything, when certain officers are not doing anything, or they feel as though that their needs are not being met by the population, because that's basically what they're there to do. They're there to scrutinise us for our job. So I just think that I don't think it would restrict the role to 1 month. I think they would still be going on throughout the full year. And especially with the current council reform that I've led on, I think that our council will become a lot better in holding officers to account. I think not only will they become better in holding to account, but also in supporting them officers. So if they feel as though that not enough is being done in regards to women's issues, for example, in October, November, they will help and they will support that individual into conducting various awareness, various workshops and various different activities where they can increase their productivity for the Students' Union. I hope that answers your question.
Can I just clarify a point? Just a point. I just wanted to clarify, I think it's disingenuous to keep going back to the part-time officer argument, because we're not currently judging whether the part-time officers should be restricted to the part-time officers are not, how do I frame this? We don't have a full-time BME officer, we don't have a full-time LGBT officer, and we don't have a full-time disabled students officer. Therefore, to compare it to that is disingenuous, because we're not, the only thing that we're restricting right now is the women's officer. We're not restricting BME students, we're not restricting LGBT students, and we're not restricting disabled students. We are, if this referendum should go forward and we get rid of the full-time women's officer, we will be restricting women's students.
I mean, I think to say that, without being offensive, but to say that we're not restricting, I do feel as though by having, if the argument is that by making the women's officer a part-time role, it's going to be restricting, then we must be restricting the BME officer, who represents 70% of our student population. We must be restricting for example, the home-based students officer, even when he represents 40 to 50% of the student populations. So this is why I feel that. On the other side, I mean, the thing is that, I got sent this from the previous year, and I think that if there is enough passion here, that we should, get a referenda, and we should get students to come out and vote in favour of having a women's officer, and that way we can get rid of the speculation and all the uncertainty that our students do not want to have a women's officer, and that's essentially what I want to do. If there's a feeling with the student body that they don't want to have the women's officer, then they can vote for the Equality and Campaigns officer. And if there's a feeling in the students' body that they want to have a women's officer, then they should come out and they should vote to have a women's officer. That's my opinion, and I hope that's okay.
Sorry, I should have clarified that. We're not voting to restrict them right now. We're voting to restrict the women's officer.
Cool. When we do the referendum, Aline, this is kind of more towards you because you're more democracy-y. Is there the option to have 3 options? Can we have the 3 options on the table? So give the students a choice then.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what democracy, that's why we need 100 people. That's democracy. That's what democracy is. Let them have a choice. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, that's one of the reasons that we're doing this is to get the students feeling. If, for example, 10 of us inside an executive room voted to have to either even restrict the women's officer role or to completely change it, I think that would be unfair to the student population. And that's one of the reasons why I brought this forward to push out. And it was a student body, and it was obviously there was a number of students at the previous general meeting that said, come back with a job description. That's why, I brought Equality and Campaigns officer. This is why, Samaya's brought a women's officer role, because this is the direction which we see it. But essentially that it needs to be the student body telling us, we held a referendum, over 1,000 students came out to vote, and they voted in favour of having X or Y or even Z. And that way no officer team after us can do anything to restrict or to change or to fiddle about with the roles. So this is why I want to have a referendum, is to get the feeling of the student body. And it's all well and good, 100 of us even now in general meeting discussing this, but essentially we need to get out, we need to inform the wider student body and get the voting in and get them to vote for whichever side we feel most passionately about. And this is why I think that we should have a referendum.
Can I just say, I don't think this is the right place for this debate right now. The point of this was to have a vote on whether we have a referendum, not to argue the 2 points. That should be left for the campaigns in the next academic year. I'm just saying we're barely at quorum and people are probably going to start leaving at some point. So we should get this vote done as soon as possible so that we can decide in the future.
We're taking the final 3 questions and then we'll be moving on.
That's the first time you got a round of applause.
1 minute summation.
Okay, so
And against having a referendum, then it's voting.
okay, so thank you very much, guys, for that. The Q&A section has ended regarding the job descriptions, and now we'll be moving on to the actual referendum itself. So now we'll be opening the floor for a speech for having the referendum and a speech against the referendum. So we'll be starting with for the referendum. Your 2 minutes start now.
Right, guys, so basically, this is something that has been dragged on for the past 2 years, something that came through from Democracy Committee, the previous, not even this academic year, the one before that. I think that it's important for us now to have a referendum and to put to bed all the uncertainty about the roles and whatever the student body feeling is. Today, I'm coming saying that, the students feel this way, the student feels that way. Tomorrow, there'll be another individual that says the students feel this way, the students feel that way. We should have a referendum. We should get campaigns teams out. We should get us informing the student body of what this actually means for them. And we should have a vote. And that way, no officer after will be able to meddle around with the roles. There's been a lot of meddling with the sabbatical officer roles. And I think that we need to put to bed this one. And I think that the only way possible we're going to do this is to have a referendum. The referendum decision is the highest decision of this union. I think it's important for us to make sure that this role is protected, not only for the welfare of the individual that's in the role, is to make sure that they can say that the student body voted to have this role. So if that's the women's officer, then yes, that's what we need to do. But I think that it's important for us to have a referendum so that the student body can vote to have this and to have in concrete, in evidence, that this is what the students want and this is how the students see our union progressing and moving forward. And that's why I feel as though we need to have a referendum for this. Thank you.
Now, the speech against, your 2 minutes start now.
Okay. So why shouldn't there be a referendum? We're a union that always talks about liberation. We always talk about how we're one of the most diverse student bodies in the UK and how we're proud of that. We talk about self-definition. We talk about how people from protected characteristics, such as women, such as BME students, such as LGBT students, such as disabled students, should be the ones to direct how their own inequalities should be framed and how it should be tackled. So why are we here pending a referendum decision about whether or not there should be a full-time women's officer? Because it hasn't come from students. It's come from particular officers in the past. In a time when the university Equality and Diversity Department has been decimated, where corporate restructures are making it even more difficult for women to stay employed here, where attainment gaps between students are making black and minority ethnic women leave with lower class degrees than they deserve, when you can't even walk down Great Horton Road without being harassed, why are we questioning liberation? When we still have a gender pay gap at this university, when we're running schemes to increase the representation of women in STEM subjects, when we've just won the Athena Swan Bronze Award after years of trying and being knocked back because women are not succeeding here, why should we as students not prioritise this? When the Women's and Campaigns Officer position has no structural support, very little dedicated staff support, and little influence in decision-making bodies in the university, then why are we not talking about increasing staff support, about widening the access and influence that they has, and creating avenues where such a position is able to thrive, instead of creating new positions that will dilute our work as a union? There are things we can do to change the position, to make it more focused, to allocate more funding, to balance out the access to university bodies and committees in a way that won't adversely affect women. We need a women's officer here in Bradford. Anyone who says otherwise, I implore you, look at the findings of the harassment survey that we did. Look at the strategies we've come up with to tackle this, and talk to your fellow students, talk to your fellow women students. Please vote against having this referendum, because we need this position. And if needs be, let's go back to the drawing board and create a new women's officer position that can survive.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now the speeches are done. We're going to take it to the vote now. So, Nail, one person here, Hamza. All right, so you guys got it, yeah? Okay. So, like usual, we're going to do this with a raise of hands. So those in favour of the referendum, please raise your hands now and raise them up high. In favour of having the referendum for the Women's and Campaigns role. So please raise your hands now. Raise them high. You are voting in favour of having the referendum, for those of you who may be confused. So raise your hands up. No, the vote just... Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Now raise your hands if you're against having a referendum. In silence, please. Thank you. And those abstaining from voting, please raise your hands. No, raise them up high. Thank you. Are you sure we're two votes short? I noted it down. I remember seeing two people leave. I remember seeing two people come in. But then after that, another person came in. Another person came in. Yeah, I'll take those.
Still got 102 by my count, but that's once again not including Ben and Felix. That's including Ben and Felix, so we still should be banging on. How many people have you got? 102 who can't be so we've got just put them in there, yeah, put them in as abstentions. So if we're done.
13 abstentions, 62, 25, 62 and 13 abstentions.
Sorry, yeah?
Sorry, 12 abstentions. You can,
Fine.
yeah. Do you want to announce that? What? The vote is as follows: for 25, against 62, abstaining 13. Therefore, the motion is defeated.
Okay. Now that section's done. No, it's done. It's done. It's staying the same. Yeah, it's done. No change to me. Yeah, it's done. Okay, so now we'll be moving on to the next section of the agenda, and we're going to be adding in the first raffle prize as well, which will be £50 Amazon voucher. So. Raffle number 148. 148. Come collect. Amazing. Enjoy, spend it wherever you want. That's cool. Okay, thank you very much, guys. That was one of... There's 3 more raffles left, guys, so don't worry. You all have a chance to win. But we're going to continue now with the rest of the agenda. And we'll be moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Constitution update. Handing over to Aleem.
Right, guys, so, yeah. Right, so basically what has been happening with the Constitution, as some of you, or a lot of you will be aware, is that we're trying to get our Constitution passed by University Council. So what that means is that the rules and regulations of how we conduct our democratic bodies in the Union and how we make decisions and the rules of conduct of our union as a whole. So basically, when we took it to university subcommittee of the Universities Council, they said that there's a few issues in regards to staffing, spacing, how we pay our staff and the protection of our staff. So the big update that I need to give you is that when we consulted our external trustee again, he added into the Constitution that certain protections for our staff. So basically, if there's something that would damage the reputation of that staff or damage the reputation of our union, the trustee board member could seek permission to attend a general meeting and be heard, and attend council and be heard. This would be in a really extreme scenario, as was explained by our trustees. But essentially, why it was put in was so that it was needed to get it passed, so that we could go to University Council and say that, look, our constitution is now a legal document, a good working document, a good sound document, and that they should support it in getting passed and getting us our legality confirmed by the Charities Commission. Because in order for us to be legally compliant, we need to get our constitution passed from our democratic procedures, and then give it to the University Council to question and to add anything that they need to be done. So if there's any questions regarding that, I'm happy to answer.
So now we're going to move on to the motion part of this. So obviously, as we said, this is regarding the Constitution and the amendments that have been made to it. So the floor will be open for a speech against passing the amendments that have been made to the Constitution, and then the floor will also be open to a speech against this. So speech for.
Yeah, hi guys. So basically, like I said before, here are the changes that have been made. This is a few of the stuff of the powers that trustee board has. Of basically, this is the protection that they would give to our staff, to our student body, not student, but to the staffing. That's the only real edits. Pretty much the rest of it is pretty much the same as when it was passed by council and GM previously when I brought it there. But essentially, we just need this thing passing so that legally we're compliant with the Charities Commission and the Education Act. So please get this passed.
The floor is open to a speech against. Does anyone have a speech against that I'd like to bring up? None? Okay, so we'll just take it to the vote then. So if you're all in favour with passing through... Okay, so if... oh, yeah. You want to go through the points? Oh, you want to go through all the points? I'm fine with that. Aleem, go through the points.
Powers 5.1i. Provide services and facilities for members. Semicolon. Roman numeral II. Full stop. Establish, comma, support, comma. So basically, they're the changes. Please pass them. Do you need any more clarification? Are you being serious? So basically, as an organisation, we're making it legal so that we can, for example, do raise and give activities, because under the Charities Act, a charity cannot fundraise for another charity. It's called remuneration unless it has something in the Constitution. This is why sometimes societies get into trouble for raising money for certain charities that they haven't declared at the start. To carry out campaigning activities, this is just like what we can and cannot do in terms of 5.2. Promote, initiate, develop and carry out educational stuff, exhibition, lectures, meetings. This is just to safeguard our societies from doing certain activities. I mean, AU did some campaigning and stuff like that as well, so it's just to safeguard our different areas. To appoint others for advice, guidance, representation and advocacy. That's like, for example, having a chairman of a society, or having an external trustee or to have any other, getting auditors to come in like we did for our accounts, to raise funds and invite and receive contributions for any person providing UBU should not carry out any taxable trading activities in raising funds. So what that basically means is that we're going to remain a charity, open and operate banking accounts, pay out funds. It basically just outlines what the trustees can do. And then any fine that a trustee gets, the trustee has to pay rather than the actual union. Any liability incurred by the trustee in defending any criminal proceeding in which the trustee are convicted of an offence arising out any fraud or dishonesty will willfully or recklessly misconduct, or any liability incurred by the trustees, etc. will get rid of them basically. So it's just these sorts of things. It's to protect the union and protect the individuals that are part of the union and giving out their time. Does that clarify everything? Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Ahmed Shehu. So I hope that you're all happy with this. So we're just going to pass this with a general eye if you are happy with including these changes to the Constitution. So with a general eye, if you are happy with this. We've got one more question. Can you take your hood off, please? So we can actually see your face. We need to verify whether you're not your student. Okay.
Have we still a quorum? I don't think we are.
Are there any other changes that aren't on the screen right now?
Everything that Aline discussed is all the changes that are there. This is just the final bullet point that leads on to the final point that was made. So that's it. Are there any other questions from the floor? None? Okay, so we're going to move on. So if you all agree to the updates that have been made.
I think we've lost quorum. I think we've lost quorum now. Get a recommendation. Just get a recommendation. Do it as a recommendation.
Recommendation to
Have to go to now.
Right, guys, so because we're not a quota, this is going to be a recommendation, but just to reiterate the fact that it has gone to exec and it has gone to council. Council approved it, I think it was 3 days ago. So basically, this recommendation will be that it's acceptable, these changes are acceptable, and then we will tell the university that our general meeting that was not quota has voted to accept the changes, but it did go through trustee board and it did go through council that has accepted these changes.
Thanks to that. Now we'll be moving on to the next section of the agenda, which is the honorary life membership application update. As quick as you can.
Right, guys, so just to explain what honorary life membership is. So basically, the final year students are given the opportunity to apply for honorary life membership. So basically what that means is that although they graduate, they will still be able to have rights in attending general meeting and attending council and attending the various and being part of our union, although they've graduated and they're no longer a part of the university, because every single student is a part of the union until they graduate. So this year, the honorary life membership committee met up. They got together and they made an application form for honorary life people who wanted to get nominated for honorary life membership. After they filled out the application form, this included things like have you been executive of societies, have you been executive of sports, media area, have you been on sub-councils of councils, so for example AU council, SF council, media council. On the actual council, have you been executives, so the liberation officers, the BME officer, disabled students, etc., all the rest of them, and how many hours have you volunteered for the union? And those who have done exceptionally well, they would fill out a form and they would give it to the honorary life membership. The honorary life membership committee would then shovel out or sieve out a number of students. So there'll be 12, because you're only allowed to have 12 honorary life memberships according to our constitution. So this year we had over 20 applications, which was a significant increasement of the amount of people applying to get the honorary life membership status. So we discussed the applications forms, and there was the honorary life membership committee voted on whether or not they felt that this individual deserved an honorary life membership. When we narrowed it down, a number of the students received a unanimous, where every member of the committee felt that they deserved honorary life membership. Others were a majority, and the ones who had the most votes, they were given precedence. So they were the ones who made up the first 11. There were 2 individuals who had majority of the vote, but they didn't have as much as the others, so they were discussed to get the final place. So what the committee did was that they rated the application out of 5, and then they added up the tallies, and then that individual with the most tallies got the last place. So I just wanted to let you know the process that we followed, and that if you've got any questions about our processes, I'm happy to take.
Any questions about the processes of picking the honorary life members?
Okay. So now I'm just going to read out who was awarded honorary life membership. 1 second. Right, so the first individual, so what I'm going to do is, right, so basically the first individual is Natalia Ibanez. Second was Hamza Boat. Third was Anya Jones. Ali Khan Kassam. Sarama Hodson. Michelle Eggett, Sophie Wheeler, Oliver Brimacombe, Nicholas Hopkins, Dominic Osborne, Lorraine Bannon, and Rory Burke. And they are the 12 honorary life members of 2015-16. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Ali. So now, thank you for that, Aline. We're moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is the next raffle giveaway. So have your raffles ready.
You're not allowed? You can't get anywhere?
You're supposed to. Wait, Sabrina's got one.
She can't get one.
She's got one.
No.
Then take it off. 54. Number 54. Oh. Fam, are we cool? Should we just do another one after this? Quickly go, man. Yes. Thank you. I think we're going to do another one, yeah, we're trying to get Corin for the next motions. And we're going to do the next raffle.
Is this the last one or the second last one?
No, this is second to last. Come on, you pick it, you pick it. You pick it.
What the, that's the word number.
107. 107. Is 107 not here? Oh, then we'll pick again. No, 107 isn't here. Go on. $71. Oh, for.
Cheers, sweetie. Come here.
No, I'm not going to kiss you. Get out of here.
Leave down to him.
All right. So, are we at quorum now? Should we do the part? We're at quorum now. We're not at quorum.
Just do the land culture assessment.
Yeah, well, okay, thank you for that, guys. We're going to save the last one for last, the £100 one for last. So now we'll be moving on to the next item of the agenda, which will be lad culture announcement from Samaya. So would you like to come to the front? We have to skip the motion because there's no...
Yeah, no, I know.
So, what do you need up?
No, I haven't. I've left it on my computer.
Okay, fine.
So it's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay.
People leave, I'm gonna get, can you make announcements if people are going to up to the front desk and sign that they're going to abstain from the vote to make sure we have quorum?
Wait, can you say that?
Okay. If anyone has to go, ideally you want to keep as many people here because there are other things to vote on. If you do have to go, before you go, can you come up to the front and just let us know that you're going, that we can count it as an abstention? Because the whole point of these general meetings is that we do actually get stuff done and policy gets passed, that our students' union can work towards it. So if you do have to go, that's fair enough, but if you can just let us know that at least we can still have a vote. We're hoping to get a few more people in to reach quorum, that we can get stuff done. But ideally, you know, this is your union. This is what a students' union is all about. It's about people in this room deciding what they want their union to fight for. So if that's what you want, please do stay here until all the votes are done. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to keep this really, really brief. At the beginning of this year, we took part in a audit of all of our policies and the university's policies to do with sexual harassment and our drugs policy, our dignity and respect and things like that, and social responsibility as well. And following on from that, we became a pilot union with the NUS to come up with resources that will help other universities and other unions with their strategies. So this year we came up with a four-stranded strategy to try and tackle harassment across campus and across the university as well, across the city as well. So we've focused on university and union policy and how clear and accessible it is. We've also focused on training for staff members across the university, whether they're frontline service staff members or they are accommodation services or counselling. The third is education, so incorporating ideas about gender norms and things like that within the education of our students, and also extracurricular as well. And then the fourth is support. So there's a very kind of elaborate table, yeah, that I've drawn up. So I really, really want as many students to feed into that as possible. It's already been given to our council, but I want wider consultation to happen. So if you want to have a look at this and chat to me about it, feel free to come and pick up a copy from me. I've only got about 5 copies, but I can email it to you so you can see it in other formats, and hopefully after this it will be put up on the website as well, so you can very easily just email me your thoughts on it. It's a really, really important piece of policy that's going to go forward. It's an important strategy because it's the first ever long-term strategy that we've ever produced as a union to be able to tackle harassment. So it's not just the focus of one officer, but actually the focus of the whole union. So I really, really welcome all of your contributions to that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Samaya. And now we'll be moving on to the next item on the agenda, which will be the motion. The Union Council Action Tracker. This is basically just us going through all the motions that have been passed through this year and giving you a quick update on whether or not they've actually been resolved or not, so you can just know the standing order of things. Okay, due to the fact that we are at quorum right now, we're going to move back to the motions. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Don, for that. I will be passing straight on to the EU referendum motion. I'll be handing it over to now to discuss this. Samaya.
Guess who's back? Back again. Okay, it's my very last AGM, so I think I'm not doing it on purpose to take up all the time. So myself and Niall came together to write this motion because we thought it was really, really important that students had a voice in the upcoming EU referendum. It's currently one of the most hotly contested issues that you'll see across the media. Probably, not too much within students, but definitely across. The political spectrum, right? So what is the EU? We know that it's an economic and political partnership between 28 member states. It's there to foster cooperation, peace, and the freedom of movement and goods and people across different states. Democratically, it's run by an EU Parliament, which we have a vote for in the local elections that we have every year. So we already know that young people between the ages of 18 to 24 are the least likely to vote, and they're the people who are going to be voting to keep Britain within the European Union. And we know that those who are over 55 are the most likely to vote, and actually the majority of them will be voting to leave the EU. It matters to us because we're the next generation. We're the ones who are going to be affected by this decision that happens on the 23rd of June this year. And I think that being one of the most international universities, being a university where our student experience is really defined by people who come from other countries, where we're part of the Erasmus scheme that enriches our campus, and where where the EU actually funds some of our research projects here in the university. One of our biggest gender inequality project called Genovate is actually funded by the EU. Our what's it called? Recenter, yeah. Recenter is also funded partly by the EU as well. And I'm sure that across Bradford there are many, many projects as well that are funded by the EU. Bradford wouldn't be able to survive in the way that it has without EU funding and things like that. So I believe that you should vote for this motion because I think it's really, really important for students to take a pro-EU stance in the upcoming referendum so that we can then encourage voter turnout through a student registration drive, something that we're doing already. But this will give us the edge. This will be able to give us the opportunity to politically advocate for a particular position, and also so that we can then host a polling station on campus. And I think we're one of the only universities in the entire UK currently holding a polling station on campus. So please, please do vote for this motion because it's really, really important that we have a voice.
Okay, now the floor is open to anyone who would like to give a speech against the motion. So is there anyone here who would like to give a speech against the motion? None. Then the floor is now open to any questions regarding the motion. Any questions regarding the motion? None. Then we're going to move straight now to the vote. Your summation speech. You have 1 minute for summation speech.
Yeah, I'm just going to give a quick summation speech. So as a European student that has made access of these borders, I just want to give an example of someone who hasn't come here and looted the state yet. So I've been here since 2008. I've gotten an education as a result of being a European Union citizen and being able to cross this border, as many others have. Huge contributions have been made, as have British students been able to go all across Europe and have fantastic experiences from their education. The grants we get from Europe, they're extremely important because let's look at the government we have at the moment that isn't going to be really giving universities that much money and expects us to be having to pay, which is, pay a certain amount, but the debts that we're getting put on ourselves without the European Union and getting grants for research, that number is going to be much, much smaller. So please vote in favour of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you for that now. And now we're going to go to the voting. And we're just going to do it like we have been doing all this time with a general raising of hands if you're in favour. So if you are in favour for the EU referendum, please put your hands up now if you're in favour of the EU referendum. Yeah, if you're in favour of staying within the EU. Yeah. So if you're in favour, please raise your hands up high. If you're in favour of taking a pro-union stance, just to let you guys know, raise your hands up. Keep your hands up, guys, please. Just get through the counting. Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Now, those against, please raise your hands. Anyone against? No one. Those abstaining from voting, please raise your hand.
For 95, against 0, abstentions 7. Therefore, the motion passes.
That's great, guys. That's great. Now, moving on to the next item on the agenda, motions update. I'll be passing over to Aleem now.
Right, guys, so this year what we wanted to do is bring the Union Council Action Tracker. So all the motions that were passed in council that was that mandated the executive officers to do something or the union to do something, and we're just going to give you an update on that. There was a motion to change the LGBT officers' naming from LGBT to LGBT plus. This was to be more representative of the LGBT plus community. This was changed in the union, and it was a simple bylaw change. There's a motion, discrimination against trans students. This came from Nate. What is it?
So as part of the Diversity Festival this year, we worked with the university to hold the trans awareness training from Trans Bear All. We also, I've asked staff members to incorporate hate crime training into the new sabbatical officer training that happens in July. And also, I'll be asking Nate who the best organisations are in Bradford to also have trans representation training for SABs specifically, and also for staff members in the union. And I think, yeah, that's all.
Yeah, as well as that, there was a water fountains motion. This was presented by the Societies Federation Council rep for Tuma. Yeah, so basically it was that the sabbatical team would lobby the university in their own capacity and meetings to put pressure on them to build more water fountains around the campus. The sabbatical officer will meet with estates and facilities to discuss the implementation of more water fountains across campus. So currently, yeah, I'll go to it if you want. So basically, at the moment, it came to a sub-briefing, and we're just about look for the funding costs.
Yeah, we're just, the Estates Department want us to pay £500 for the installation of a new water fountain, so we're just waiting to take that to the Student Central Management Group, which is tomorrow, I believe. No? Okay, someone said no, I don't know. And then for that to go to Starboard and the money to be approved. We're also looking at water bottles, non-disposable water bottles that we can give out to students as well to encourage the use of water fountains, and also a socially ethically, environmentally responsible, use of water fountains. The next, I'll keep talking. The next action tracking thing was to the motion to boycott Nestle. So what we've continued to do is to boycott Nestle. And we're also in the process of producing a campaigns handbook, which will incorporate all the different campaigns that the union currently runs. And in that will be the information around why we boycott Nestle, around the negative impacts and things like that. So it's all encompassing in that handbook. Should I do the final one? And then my final one is the promoting responsible drinking. This was a motion that I put to council that was part of the alcohol impact project that the union is doing. The responsibility for that has been taken by the welfare and counselling, so that the project is going really, really well. And yeah, I guess if you have any questions, just let us know.
That leaves reclaiming the union mall. So this was another motion which came from the Societies Federation Council for Tuma. It was that the union resolved that all sabbatical officers would lobby the university using their area of expertise If the student body supports this motion, that all members of the student council would lobby on their behalf. The campaigns committee and other areas of the union, i.e. sports, society and media, will lobby the university. So this predominantly fell upon my role, especially with the current negotiations going on with the university in regards to our staffing, our secondments, our constitution and our trustee board. So basically with that, that will be incorporated into the agreements that we sign with the university and moving forward. And then we also had a motion in regards to gluten-free food. So this was done by Sam, our postgraduate officer, and Niall, our deputy chair. This was an action for Subira because she had a welfare role. As well as that, it was basically to raise awareness about gluten-free products. I'm aware there was various stuff that was done in regards to that. In particular, we fed back to Sodexo, the provider of food, and we also fed back to Chris Bargo, who's the head of all that area. As well as that, the final one that we had was the typography motion, which was submitted by Hasmin. So earlier in the year, we found that a lot of the universities font that they were using were italics and they had serifs on them, and this causes certain students, especially those with dyslexia and dyspraxia, gives them difficulty in reading these types of font. So we pushed to make sure that the university as well as the union wouldn't use those types of fonts, so that it was all inclusive for the rest of the student body. So I'm open to any questions that you've got. Which one? Oh, sorry. So the farmers market, which was brought by our council lay member, that was to work. I think it was to work with Rob at the time because Rob was working into getting a farmers market on campus. As far as I'm aware, there was a farmers market that came onto campus. Do you want to just? I'll just pass it over to Robert.
Yes. So this was a motion taken by Nick. Wonderful motion, basically trying to get fresh food, fresh produce on campus once a month. It's something that we were trying to do to start with at Christmas. Cool. Yeah. We met with Bradford Markets, went over to Leeds University Union. They have a fantastic farmers market there. They have some really, really cool stands, loads of smoothie bites and stuff, and it's all about being active, so it worked quite well. From that end, we were all grand. Unfortunately, we hit some snags with basically in Student Central. Estates sell food and drink, and it basically means that there's a licensing issue there. It's something that I was basically told to come back with once they'd reviewed the contract of the food supplier for next year. Sodexo won't be there next year, and it's something that I'll be working with Sigi to make sure that he's very aware of and that he's pushing forward, because that's the sort of thing that he's actually keen for as well.
Yeah, thank you. So is there any questions?
So are there any questions regarding all of the motions that were passed through this year? Any questions? None. Then we'll be moving on to the final item of the agenda, which is the exec reports. So we'll be starting with Samaya. Okay, not Samaya. We'll be starting with Hasmin.
I don't have my, can you just scroll it down? Hi guys. So, thank you, Niall. As you can see, this is what I've achieved over the past few months. Just a quick few heads up. PGR lounge pool tables. You know, if, most of you are not here PGR students. PGR is postgraduate research, PhD students, just like our Niall on my right. They've got a dedicated space for them, so we've got a pool table there. And library coffee machine, we're getting a coffee machine in the next few weeks in front of the library. module timetables will be out this year on the first week of September, and on the first week of October you should have examination timetables. TEF, Teaching Excellence Framework, and new fee structure. So we've been negotiating with the university since the white paper has just come out with regards to the higher education bill. There's going to be some changes in the fee structures across the country. So the biggest impact is going to be on the home students because the fee is going to be increased. But we are speaking with the university how they're going to increase and what kind of framework and benchmark do they have to increase the fees kind of thing. Apart from that, the survey seasons went really well. Thank you very much for everyone who got involved and who filled it out. We've hit the national averages. We've gone more than most of the universities actually, because we've had 76% of the students filling the surveys actually. And thank you very much for all of that. And we've won 2 bids. So one was for this year, and next year for the survey seasons we've got another bid. Apart from that, A99 bus came. It was under review for the last few months. Last few weeks actually, so we made a business case, and that's free for next year. So I'm working on another business case for the next 5 years, so hopefully it should be fine as well. Apart from that, tasks ongoing. So yeah, we've got the academic regulations all reviewed almost. We've reviewed, and I'm on the learning and teaching strategy now. So that's the 10-year learning and teaching strategy. Going through the draft paper, it's about 200 pages book, so I'm just going through it. Apart from that, disabled students allowance, that's going to be a bit of an issue for the next couple of years because of the restructures that the government are going through within their departments, so we will have to look out for that. Student charter, designing phase, we've sent it out for the designs now, so the charter designing should be out in the next week for wider consultation, so I'll be asking all the students if you like the designs or not. Apart from that, final point, Student Leadership Awards tomorrow, so followed by buffet, so I'd love to see all of you guys there. Just all the students, please come down, celebrate the successes and the great stories of what you've been doing over the past year, and looking forward to see you all there. Thank you.
Okay, now the floor is open to any questions towards Hasmin. Are there any questions towards Hasmin? No questions, then we're moving on to the next sabbatical officer.
There's one question.
Anyone have a question towards Hasmin? Okay, there's no question. There's no question. All right, so we're moving on to the next sabbatical officer.
Thank you.
Rob, come up and give your...
Thanks, man. You too. You all want to get home, so I'll try and make it quick. Ask me questions if you want to. Main achievements, well, you can read. Big events. Worked with British University and College of Sport, which books, to host the first ever inclusive sports conference here, because we've been championing inclusive sport this year. That's everything from disability to LGBT to everything in between. Ran a successful lecture on exploring LGBT engagement in sport. This is not the right document, but oh well. Good. Basically done a big campaign on confronting inequality in sport. That's part of the reason why we did that. Hosted a big seminar at the Re-Centre about building a new business case for sport. So that's looking at working with big community partners, key stakeholders within Bradford and West Yorkshire, trying to get people working together to fund, to basically pool their funding resources. So especially when it came to like European funding bids, getting all the funding bid experts in the region to come together and work together to get better bids within the locality. You might not get it on your turf, but if it's next door, we can still share those resources. And that was really, really well received. Done loads of other stuff. There was loads of others on the other one, but basically we've got Leicesters Lane that's going to be finished for mid-August, which is bloody finally. Got loads of other stuff. I'm trying to remember from the other document. But this year we've got new branding coming in that we're hoping to get confirmed by the end of May. We've got new kits that have all been designed by a big focus group that's looking fantastic. We've got a new strategy that we're finishing in the next 2 weeks, which will be a 5-year sports strategy for Bradford and how we're going to hopefully get into the top 15 books and all sorts of other stuff. But if you have any other questions, please ask. Thank you.
So now the floor is open to any questions towards Rob, the sports officer. Are there any questions? Not even one question? No question? All right, thank you very much. Rob, you can have a seat. Moving on to the next sabbatical officer up, Aleem. You have to come up.
I'll take the hint. Cool. So this year, in terms of democracy, what we've done, we've made massive improvements in our engagement. So at the start, we had a by-election. We filled up all the positions that were in the election except for, I think it was...
Okay, to apologize, guys, as we are over time, we just need a general aye to proceed with AGM. So with a general aye, we'll be able to proceed. So if you're happy with us proceeding, please just give a general aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Does my time start again? Are you being serious? Right, so democracy, 18% turnout in the by-elections, constitution. So now we've got senior members of the management team at the university coming down to our subcommittees of trustee board. This is to ensure that our agreements get set in terms of human resources, so our staffing secondments, the way they get paid. We've got our constitution, we've got the legal secretary coming to our subcommittee of governance. We've got Chris Mallis, the finance guy from the university, coming to our subcommittee of trustee board. This is to make sure our finances are in check. There are other things that we've done in terms of democracy are the bylaws review. So we've been reviewing council. We've got feedback from council members and from various other members to push forward. The referendums. So at the moment now we'll just be doing the NUS referendums. So that will go on to my successor. Went to the NUS National Conference, represented the union and went forward. General meeting. Every single general meeting has been at quarter this year. So it's a massive congratulations to you guys. For being engaged, and I just wanted to highlight the fact that our areas of our union are so engaged. When we have a time where students' unions are moving away from having general meetings because they can't get students to turn out, we've had quora at every single meeting, and in particular there's pictures from our first general meeting which had over 363 students that came to attend. So it's a massive congratulations to everyone, in particular our sports societies and media areas who constantly come out and do support our union and our cause. We went on a council tour. So we had 2 open councils in the union, once in November, once in February. We had one UBU council on the first ever time that the council went to the Faculty of Law and Management. We had one UBU council in the Bradford Chambers. It was really good. The Lord Mayor attended and she was really impressed of our discussions. And there's a picture for it. And there's a year in pictures. So the various stuff that we've been doing. I don't know if you've got any questions about that, but yeah, that's my report for the year. Thank you. I hope you have enjoyed me being union after.
Thank you very much. That's done now. The floor is open to any questions towards Aleem. Are there any questions for Aleem? None? Aleem, take a seat. And we're moving on to the next sabbatical officer. There's no questions. So the next sabbatical officer is Sabira.
I'm going to have to do it behind here. Hi everyone. So I kind of wanted to just go through my year as being a SAB. So as most of you guys know, last year my role was environment and welfare. So I kind of wanted to get people to understand what my role was. So I kind of did a lot of events, kind of put myself out there, making sure that students knew who I was, so that for next year I can kind of implement policies, because there's no point implementing policies when students don't know who you are. Yeah. Oh, crap. All right, so the first thing I did was starting off with a Mad Hat's Tea Party, which was kind of providing free event for students during Freshers Week, because I felt as though we need to make sure that all students are inclusive, and it was a complete sellout. All the food was free, and I just thought it's a good way for us to kind of bring in non-alcoholic events within the union. The next thing I was doing was working with the Green Ambassadors. So Green Ambassadors are people that live on the Green, and it's our way of basically making sure that the Green works in the way it should do. So we put on different events. I helped with training, and also just putting events on throughout the year. We also have a big blowout, which is a free barbecue on Thursday with water balloon dodgeball. The other thing I did was basically work with first response, and what we do is that whenever because we don't have any out of hours services, what I wanted to do was ensure that we are connected with the community to ensure that if students have any issues out of hours, we actually are able to kind of provide for them. So on the UB app, we actually have a spot where you can actually directly contact first response, and that's something that I was able to implement. And also, if you look around the university, also around different areas that are linked to the university, first response will be there, and that's our collaboration with first response. The next part is basically I created an out-of-hours service, out-of-hours support. So if you go on the UBU online, you'll basically be able to see that you'll be able to directly see all the availabilities that are there. And I was able to create this. So if you go there, you'll be able to you've got downloadables as well. You've got academic support, all of that stuff I did. And it continues basically. The next part is Wellbeing Week. So as you know, basically the whole point is that I wanted to put on different events. So Wellbeing Week was a range of free events that also help students kind of make sure, because around November people kind of don't feel very comfortable. So I wanted to ensure that students felt comfortable. So we had like a free brunch, nail painting sessions, massage sessions, all those kind of stuff just to help students. Yes. Oh, there we go. So I also created a student support group. So the student support group was basically to ensure that students that kind of felt uncomfortable speaking to the counselling service were able to actually were provided with an alternative. So we provided student support group, but also we provided like art therapies and mindfulness, just because it's not a one size fits all when it comes to mental health. It's all different aspects. So I wanted to create all these different avenues as well, and student support group was one of the things that I started. Well, there's a lot more. Yeah, I know. Okay, so also we kind of every year we have every end of the month we have a nurse that comes in to check up on students. We've had swag week. I've been able to create this with the NHS. So it's just basically an exam timetable to kind of see what you need, kind of the help you need. I'm also looking to put on like 100% child-friendly campus, because we have a lot of students that have student with dependence, and we need a child-friendly campus. Obviously, we did the RAG skydive. We had RAG week, which was phenomenal. De-stress fest. We've had loads of free events for students. Okay. And these are the organisations that we work with.
Now, Now the floor is open for any questions towards the Community and Welfare Officer. Are there any questions?
So while I was doing my report, Beyonce was able to drop one of the most amazing visual albums of the year. So I wanted to pay tribute to that. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? None, then we'll be moving on to the next sabbatical officer. Hamza, please step forward.
Hi guys. Basically, this is quite the busiest time of the year for my role, so I've had to literally rush through this. But this was what I put for the AG towards the last council we had. But basically, did the points. This is what I majorly did this month, but we've looked after 81 societies who've gone on to do great and fantastic work. We've held weekly meetings all year. Media areas have grown fantastically all throughout the year. Hopefully, Robin will make this available to you guys so you can read through it. But entertainments-wise, the big thing that we're changing towards the end of this month, going into June, is we're holding an ENTS forum, so we want to get more students involved with actually creating the events. So we've got a lot of the sports guys involved, AU, SF, so a lot of different diverse backgrounds to make sure that we get... I also wrote, I refuse to apologise for Graham. However, Party on the Amp week, you will definitely notice the diversity in acts and performances. Basically, my job right now is to promote Party on the Amp as much as I can. It's going to take place this Friday. We've got way more acts this year. We've got way more stuff put on this year. You'll see a visible difference compared to the last few years this year. Hopefully, when you come down and see, you get a lot of free stuff if you buy the wristbands. Get involved, you get more for your money this year. Biggest fairground in history. Wide selection of food offerings. Unlimited popcorn, donuts, candy floss. Subprime takeover the sports bar. #1 global DJ Rusky, and most acts on the main stage. Afrobeats and bashments in Escape. It will be one to remember. There you go.
Okay, so the floor is open for any questions. You got questions? You got questions? No.
Out of everyone, I have to get questions, right?
Are you gonna have tickets for just the night? Because a lot of us can't afford to do it, or we're not gonna go to the fairgrounds and then paying £27 for the night seems a bit unreasonable.
Yeah, basically what we do is we expect over 1,000 people to come to FND as they always do every year, and what we budget on is that fact. Now, when we've got the AMP where you guys can come, and as I'm sure all of you are aware, you can come and enjoy the day performances on the AMP for free, but you won't get access to the fairground. The thing is, we pay for a lot of this stuff to come in, so my big responsibility this year is to make sure we don't spend more than we actually have in the entertainment's budget, and I've kept that. And for Party on the Amp, we need you guys to contribute towards how much money we actually spend on the stuff there. On top of that, I will hopefully be releasing we're going as the day. I mean, we have an entertainment meeting every day this week to make sure that we're on top of this, but hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be able to release FND only tickets. Right now we're looking at, we might not have that many tickets left. That's what we're looking at right now, but we always do have like 100 or 200 that we always leave behind for FND, as we do every year. But hopefully, at least minimum by Friday, at least we may have a few tickets left for FND only. But I appreciate, guys, unfortunately this year we've got exams right up until Friday. Didn't expect this to happen, but this is what we have to face with. The weather's hopefully going to be better than we've had in the last few years. So we're looking good in that terms. But do contribute if you can contribute towards the whole event as a whole. Do contribute, because we're not making money on this event. We're only recouping what we've put in. So I don't want to see my last event go through as a loss. So if you guys could contribute, that'd be fantastic. You won't lose out on money, and take part in the fairground, take part in the FND, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be able to release. But you just have to check our social media throughout the week.
As of now, though, have you had enough ticket sales for it to actually be feasible to not offer them as just of a night?
No, because we just run right up to break even on the full tickets. We've not actually it's very difficult to recoup the amount of money we've spent on it. But the way we're looking this week, I mean, sales went fantastically today as well, and throughout this week, hopefully a lot more of you guys can buy tickets as well. And we're looking in I'm optimistic for Friday, so hopefully you guys can contribute. I know there's the issue of you guys, we're not here to rob you. We use your money to spend for you guys to enjoy. So all these things, all the things that I've crammed into Party on the Amp have been to get the most out of what we can give you guys, and that's what I've looked at all year. So hopefully you guys can contribute towards Party on the Amp as well, and Friday should be a massive success. So see you guys there.
I appreciate that you are good at marketing for major events like Party on the Amp, Halloween, Christmas and Freshers, and I understand you are quite approachable at times, as I let you in the game. Well done. But why has there's been minimal marking from some other events, like the Ministry of Sound Society event? I noticed there weren't many there, and some went into the bars for free.
Yeah, I can't control if people come into the bars for free. That's up to the bars to actually look at their back door and make sure it's actually closed, which they don't. So we've tried to promote as best as we can. It's only the manpower that we have and the amount of people that can help us that we can work with promotion. You guys are the main people who can promote to each other and spread the word between each other. But every event we put on so that we can entertain you guys. And moving forward, I mean, the big thing is there's only so much one person can contribute to an event and promote and, the idea of an event. So what we've done moving forward is we're trying to get more people involved at the early stages so we can get more input into that. So moving forward, hopefully next year you guys will have a greater say in the entertainment that you put in. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I could have plugged into Rameh quite a lot more. It's just where we get availability to. I can't be perfect, but I've tried my best all year, and hopefully you guys can see that. But yeah, thank you.
Hi Hamza, regarding party in the AMP, you know that we have talented international students at our university. Do you have any updates if they can be involved in the party in the AMP?
Apologies, Paul, we sorted it out this morning. Your mates, Vlad, is more than welcome to fly on the up and give him a place. And,
so in the morning?
In the morning, hopefully, I've given the name towards Phil. Phil's going to fill it into the schedule, and hopefully we can fit him into the schedule. Yeah, he's already been contacted as well.
Fabulous, thank you.
Are there any other questions towards Hamza before we continue? None, then we'll be moving on to the next sabbatical officer, which is Samaya.
Hello? Oh, it's on. Thank you.
3 minutes start now.
Okay, cool. So one of the major focuses of this year has been really with the lad culture strategy. So at the beginning of the year, we, like I said, took part in an audit of all of our policies. We looked at the criteria of the policy, how clear and accessible it is to students, whether it's on the website, whether if you are harassed or if you are verbally or physically or sexually assaulted by someone, that you are that you know what to do next, basically. And we also had to look at the attribution of responsibility, so like who deals with this kind of stuff within the university, and also how when you do report something, what the outcomes are and how likely you are to be supported through that. So with the audit, we noticed the main problems. We came out really well actually, but the main things that we needed to work on were the specificity of the policy. So mentioning terms like sexual harassment or verbal or physical or things like that, and then also the accessibility of it. We found that it wasn't really accessible. They were really like dense documents. They were like 50-page documents or whatever. And then we also looked at how students were able to. How the university and the Students' Union is able to implement the strategies that it has. So that was the main thing that we decided to have a look at. We then went forward and had a day of action where we gave out lots of information to students around how to report harassment, how to recognize it, and what to do with these little leaflets, and we gave out little bags. We also had a roundtable discussion then with the local MP, local councillors, and with the neighbourhood policing team. And out of that, we came to the conclusion that Great Houghton Road, half of it is managed by one side of the police, and half of it is managed by the other side of the police. So things like that. We also held focus groups on what holds women back and the different experiences of women across the university as well, because they're not all one. We also we filmed and produced right now a Don't Stand By video. It's currently in the editing process, so it will be released. Hopefully, it will be launched next year. We also had a lecture on lad culture during the Diversity Festival, and we had an emphasis on reporting procedures. So one of the things that came out, if I can press play, is that the About UOB app now has the ability to monitor harassment reports. So this is me just, you can watch it. So you go through to wellbeing on the app, you go click harassment, you click report incidents, if it's happening, and then you have the ability to anonymously or non-anonymously leave your details and report an incident. I'll let it finish. Okay. And then you just submit a report. So it's really easy, you can do it quickly. Obviously, to stress, this isn't an emergency reporting procedure, it's just to be able to give us an idea of what's happening. We then I worked with the Centre for Educational Development to produce a 2.5 workshop series called the Intervention Initiative. It's a really, really good resource that was developed by another university, and we delivered 2 workshops in April around that, and that's being extended. It was to understand how the misconceptions around like social norms and how gender and discrimination influence people. So that was kind of like really the outcome. Okay, I've got through like 1 point. Sorry.
So now the floor is open to any questions towards Samaya.
Okay, so we produced a Care Pathways document, which we'll be giving to tutors so that they're able to, personal academic tutors, so they're able to signpost students in the right direction. And also the strategy that I spoke about earlier, that's information. It has 4 main strands. Some of the other stuff, we've made a gender-based bullying and harassment working group that has a lot of different partners from across the city, that's actually building on the survey that we did here on campus and reproducing it across the city. And they're also putting funding towards a full-time staff member to work with the college and the university on the topic of embedding these strategies within the university, so we don't have to continue to restart it every single year. There is a women's office. And some of the other points that I wanted to really cover was on the campaign against Prevent. We were the first students' union in the country to ever bring a House of Commons parliamentary committee to its city, the Home Affairs Select Committee, to take evidence on extremism, and I took 70 students to that to be able to feed back on the Prevent strategy. And then following that, we had workshops with Norwegian and Swedish youth workers, because the government strategy on counter-terrorism is being replicated elsewhere, and we know that it's adversely and negatively affecting students. So we had youth workers come and hold focus groups with students here, and then that information is then going up to the United Nations Committee for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. So the stuff that students are doing here is really, really getting right to the top and campaigning to change legislation. And then we also had a human rights lawyer who came and interviewed myself about the impact of Prevent on University of Bradford students. We also had the NHS bursaries campaign for students not suspects. We had Holocaust Memorial Day vigil. We took students to the Holocaust Memorial Srebrenica presentation at the Bradford Grammar School, and I took a delegation of 50 students to Calais. We set up a refugee group here, and we've been working with local organisations on things like the Radios for Refugees campaign. I don't know if you saw the posters for that, and also we're hosting the International Refugee Day Festival as part of Refugee Week in Bradford, and he hasn't noticed, I'm just going to keep going. We also run a voter registration campaign, so if you see that, please register to vote for the EU referendum. And then there's been lots of other things as well. And then the Diversity Festival, there were 26 events across the week, including a lecture on lad culture.
Okay. Are there any other questions towards Samaya?
I hope it's maybe not too late to mention this, but the self-defense event from last year, why wasn't other martial arts in the sports areas not? Oh, sorry, I'll start from the start.
No, I get your question. I get it.
Why were martial arts not notified about it?
Yes. So when I first, last year when I first introduced the taster session classes at the beginning of the year, we did do them in collaboration with the with Jiu-Jitsu Club. However, sorry? Yeah, the taster sessions were with the Jiu-Jitsu club last year in during freshers. Then because the club didn't have women who were trained highly enough to teach other people at that point in time, I had to go external, and I went to Honor Jiu-Jitsu Club, which is a local club in Bradford, which trains around 700 young people across Bradford, and that has continued on from last year into this year. And this year we had a number of our women students being graded, and they got their yellow and orange belts this year, so I was really, really proud of that. They've actually come through the process.
I think just to carry on from what Samaya said there, also it's a funding issue. The funding came externally from Sportive Aid to start with, and it basically meant that it couldn't be done in conjunction with the club because they were paid through our student union accounts. It was a funding situation, which is why, and she did that through us as well, so we were aware of it as the athletic union.
Are there any other questions towards Samaya before we move on? None, then we'll be moving on.
Cool, my last ever AGM. It's done.
To the final report. So can we have International Students Officer? Where's your reports? There you go. You have 3 minutes here. I'm going to tell you something. Okay. Yeah. Your 3 minutes start now.
Hello everyone. When I first started back in October last year, I couldn't imagine the journey that I was heading to. But I knew that I will focus on 2 main areas. The first one was to provide support for all the international students. And the second one was to increase the engagement of international students with the Students' Union and with all the activities that are being run in the union. We provided the necessary support for international students by running forums and focus groups and collecting feedback from them and using the feedback to improve their experience and solving emerging problems and taking this feedback to student staff liaison committees. Then for increasing the engagement of international students with Students' Union, we run 14 events this year. Also this year, One World Week was named the best One World Week since 2008, so since the starting, by the International Office, with more than 500 international students directly involved. So that means 25% of international student population in here, just in those 8 events. Recently, we had the last event actually 2 days ago, a premium party for all the international students, where they had the chance to show their talent in, singing live music. They were featuring in local newspaper and on radio. Also, all those events are the result of hard work of the greatest team that I ever had the chance to work with. Thank you to all sabbatical officers, part-time officers, volunteers, student reps, international student reps, and all international societies and international office, because you are the heroes. Now, ending up with the words of Steve Jobs, something slowly began to dawn on me. I still love what I did. Thank you to all the international students and all the students that I had the opportunity to represent this year. Thank you.
So the floor is now open for any questions towards Paul about his report and everything he's done this year. Are there any questions? No questions, so you can have a seat. Thanks for that, Paul. Oh.
Hi, Paul. Congratulations on your year. It's been a fantastic year. It's been an honor working with you. What advice would you give to the next international students officer for what they could do to continue your legacy?
Thank you for this question, because I was working on a bigger project this year that involves all the international societies. We have 16 and they are growing in number. Next year we want to have all the international societies united and run one event for international students every month. And it will be great if the next international students officer will take over and will run better events and engage more international students.
Are there any other questions? Any other questions towards Paul? Okay, not at this moment. Thanks very much. That was it, man. And now moving on to the final thing on the agenda, which is the last raffle, £100 Amazon voucher. So we'll be finding out who wins this. $65. Come and collect your voucher. Smile. Do you have an AOB? Okay. Okay, that was the last voucher to be handed out, so that's our last winner. So big round of applause for her, guys. And now we've got one AOB from Samaya, which she's going to give now.
Thank you. For everyone who doesn't already know, the Bradford Literature Festival is currently happening across Bradford. There are over 200 events. They're happening at the University of Bradford and they're happening across the city as well. It's a brilliant lineup of speakers and guests and events and activities that are happening. So I would really encourage you. It's completely free for students. Please do check out some of these events. There are some really big names coming from across the world as well. And also a lot of work, a lot of funding, a lot of things have gone into making this successful. So I'd really hope, in particular, the events that are hosted at the university, that we really show up in good numbers for it. And also, it's something that will make Bradford, leave its mark on the map, so to speak. So please do attend the Bradford Literature Festival. Thank you.
We've got another AOB from Rob.
Sorry, I'll be quick. One of the main reasons that I'm dressed like a moron is that this Wednesday it's a Team Bradford tournament. Doesn't matter who you're supporting, but come and get down, 'cause it's all about student staff engagement. It's about everyone having a good time at the end of the year. It'll be happening across campus, mainly in Unique, but yeah, as I say, across campus. And because we're red and black, you should really support one of those colours, preferably red. Thanks, bye.
Oh, you got one as well, and one from Hamza.
Shout out Team Purple. We good? But that's going to be fun. Party on them tickets, make sure you get them. And your pizza's arriving at 9, so you might as well chill out. Reception's open till 7 p.m. all this week, so you can collect your wristbands. Fingers crossed they'll be here by tomorrow morning, and we'll be able to give you that announcement. Right now, we were meant to have them this morning, so hopefully we can get the wristbands in, and then we can give them out to you guys from tomorrow onwards. But yeah, just sweet.
And another AOB for Red Ribbon.
Hi, we've got an event tomorrow. We've got a party at the Escape Bar up all night. It starts at 11:30 till 3:30. And we've also got a football tournament from 6 till 9 at the Unique Gym. So hopefully we'll see you there.
Yeah, it's just a party for Tuesday, so you can warm yourself up for this Friday. So you can't really miss it out because it's going to be a good night.
Huh? And one final announcement from Alim.
Right, guys. Surprisingly, AGM finished a bit early. So food, there's 25 pizzas coming, so please wait, otherwise we'll have to eat them for you. Thank you. So it'll probably be about 15 minutes. So it's not too long. Thank you.
And one more AOB from Sabir. All right, so council has now come to an end. Thank you. AGM has now come to an end. Thank you very much, guys. Huh? Oh, man.